thank the gods for their ignorance, for if the prayers of mortals were universally answered, there will be naught left living, since all pray for an end, one to the other. And doom came, decked in the flesh of a man. Death to all didst devise. No inferno could against him stand. 'Twas thunder under brimstone skies. Archaon walked through the black snow of the southern waste, sky roaring above him. After months, or probably even years, for all Archaon knew, of wandering the waste, he found what he was looking for between two mountains. The Forsaken Fortress. A palace that moved as it desired, maybe in a way to emulate the nature of its master, Be'lakor. Archaon hoped that by finding it, he would also learn where to find the rest of the treasures he needed to become the Everchosen, and send all, mortals and gods, into oblivion. Because of the nature of the palace, divination was of little use, so they wandered about and did the best to find it. The fortress had no door, but Archaon saw a bluish light above a symbol of chaos undivided. He managed to get in through that bluish light. There he could not tell where the light came from, because everything was covered in it. He drew his sword, Terminus, and the voice told him he is far from home. Archaon found a throne that looked like Be'lakor. A voice came from the throne, and Be'lakor and Archaon have a discussion that ends with Archaon stabbing the floor. This hurts the demon, and the palace vanishes. Surprise! It wasn't Be'lakor, it was a changeling. Archaon grabs it, and he wants answers, of course, threatening it that it will end its miserable existence. He gets his answers. He learns his mother was of low birth, that he had half-brothers who are dead because Archaon outlived them all, and he learns Be'lakor is his true father, but not what plans the Demon Prince has. Unfortunately, the changeling can imitate, he can't know more than his god wishes. Archaon asks for the real Forsaken Fortress. Who does change his place randomly, that thing is still true to it. But he can't reach it. The changeling tells him, but he won't be able to reach it by wing, sled, or foot, because it's way into the west, and by the time he would reach it, it would have already been gone. But there is another option. In the Gatelands of the south, you can find Agramon, who has a horse, Dorghar, the fourth treasure of chaos, the horse of the apocalypse. Steed of the apocalypse, but you get it. All he has to do is steal it and use it to reach the fortress. Archaon lets the changeling live, goes to find his evil steed. Beyond the maps and charts of man, where gold lies cold and unplundered, there lies a bleak and hellish land of savage darkness and thunder. No trees or forest ever grows in this lightless realm of cold, a land of ice and midnight snow, scorched by storms of shrieking souls. Through swarms of beasts and frenzied fiends, fights a man who has traveled far. In him, the end comes to these lands, in search for a sign and treasure dark. A wretched place that knows no peace. Before his blade dread demons fall. To his banner flock bands of beasts. A monstrous horde behind him forms. He leads them through an ancient gate, a raging portal overwhelmed, through which his destiny awaits passage to an abyssal realm. Archaon moved his war host south. During his time in the Waste, Archaon gathered many war herds that joined his cause, as was his right. Gorst still followed his master, with his crown cage on his head, and the symbols of Sigmar on his flesh. Don't start me with this one. Anyway, the Beast Fiends did not like the Flagellant, but they stayed their hand in hurting one of Archaon's closest. Warherd leaders would fight daily for the possibility of being the one to take orders from Archaon directly. In their walk, they found the Hemorrhagia, I think that's how you say it, where the earth was wounded, and from it bled demons. Over that domain ruled Ograx with his gore fiends, beast fiends dedicated to Khorne, who would kill the demons coming from the earth in the name of their god. Archaon gave the order to attack the land and conquer another war herd. Two war herds would meet in conflict. Archaon challenged Ograx to come and fight him. You know how beast fiends are bigger and stronger than regular beastmen? Well, there was no beast fiend bigger and stronger than Ograx. Ograx and Archaon would fight separately, while the battle of their followers would turn into a three-way one, thanks to demons coming out of the ground and attacking everyone. The battle between the two was a fierce one, but it had to stop at some point. The demons were becoming an even increasing problem. So both Archaon and Ograx ordered their men to stop fighting each other and to kill the demons. Giselle was also there, protected by one of the swords of Archaon. While she still burned the Everchosen with her presence, that Chaos Dragon experience really took a toll on her sanity. Ograx and Archaon would make a truce, where the Gorfiend would join Archaon's host. Then the Gorfiend killed the warherd leader and took his position, in quite a brutal display in which he removed the former's head from his body. It's even stated that Archaon was startled by this. Shirian argued against this because, in his perception, he was making a pact with an animal. But Archaon argued you can trust an animal more than a sorcerer of Tzeentch. They start moving once more, with his new lieutenant leading his beast fiends. Archaon would lead his horde to the Gatelands, where they found a giant ogre that was the caretaker, Beastmaster, and also, I think another role, huntsman of Agramon's menagerie. He had a conjoined twin whose exposed head came out of the ogre's belly. Yeah, it was kinda weird. Whatever. Lord Agramon was a powerful demon, and he was the owner of the Steed of the Apocalypse. To reach the palace of the Demon Lord, Archaon decided he would go alone and have the rest of his army follow him from afar. Shirian didn't much like his plan, as neither did the swords, but it would be easier to detect more people than just one. So his army would follow him, and if he would not return in the equivalent of 3 days, or the passage of 3 gore sleeps, because you can't really be sure in the space of chaos how time works, so they have to go by their basic instincts. They would attack the palace. Should those 3 days pass, they would attack the palace. Everyone agrees. Archaon leaves Ograx to lead his army, and he smuggles himself in the wagon that carried the beasts and demons freshly captured for the Demon Lord. As he left, Archaon looked at Giselle, who stared back at him with an empty expression. He would kill a saber-toothed tiger and throw it out the wagon, and take his place inside the cage. When the time came for the beast fiends to do one final inspection of the captured beast, of course, they didn't pay much mind to Archaon. By his armor, they considered him a demon of sorts. Beasts would get moved on, and Archaon would be switched from his cage. The changeling told Archaon to be careful, to not become part of the Demon Lord's collection. For you see, the ogre used a charm made of skulls to control the beasts. Why invest in expensive locks when you can just force them to stay there though? Through magic, of course. Archaon used the saber-tooth charm to pretend to be part of the collection. They got into the Demon's Lord domain. It had walls that would spell the doom and death for any that dared to siege it, including Archaon's own horde. And Archaon was also hit by a powerful stench of creatures eating, defecating, living, and dying all at the same time, as you can expect from a menagerie of monsters. When the time came for him to be switched, he resisted the orders of the demonettes for a few seconds to prove to himself that he still had control, that he was still free. He was put in a cage with a manticore that was being eaten by fleas. Next to their cage was a half-demon with long spindly arms that raved madly. When it tried to fool Archaon and kill him, Archaon killed him instead. For a moment, the Everchosen had some compassion for the suffering of the Manticore, but he was also pragmatic, telling the beast he would serve as a good distraction, and if it dared to eat him, well, Archaon had defeated many creatures that wanted to do the same thing. Plus, after the whole encounter with the Chaos Dragon, he would give it indigestion. The Manticore was free now, and the door that blocked the Chaos Beast and the Everchosen from going outside was open. And so the Manticore went out and provided the distraction Archaon needed. Archaon would go after his sword and shield that he stashed away when he first went into the wagon, and he would jump from one cage to another to go get his future steed. In the Great Tower of the Demon Lord, Archaon would find Doghar, the steed of the Apocalypse, alongside other beasts. But there was a problem. What was supposed to be a simple mission wasn't so. For you see, the beast, or should I say the steed that liked to transform into different things, would not be as easy to claim as the other treasures of chaos. Archaon would wrestle with it to put on the bridle and saddle, and still the beast opposed him at every step. Archaon even punched the demon that took the resemblance of Oberon, his old horse, but he still would not yield no matter how much they fought. Demons and guards of the Demon Lord would come because of the commotion, of course, in the tower. That with the Manticore outside and many beasts being set free, you can imagine their forces would be stretched thin. The horse and the Everchosen would fight together against the common foe. At some point, Archaon would manage to mount the horse, and the horse took to the skies, flying in the direction of the Forsaken Fortress. They would crash at some point because the demon was going too fast, and it still wanted Archaon off its back. On the ground, the beast would have tried to escape, but the whole crashing thing made it kinda dizzy, and so Archaon threatened it with his sword. "You will yield to me, demon, for I am to be the Everchosen of Chaos, the harbinger of ruin, and the lord of the end times. By dark right you are to be my steed, monster, a demonic beast of burden fit to carry me into the annals of history before I see fit to send the past, present, and future of this miserable world into oblivion. Yield, creature of chaos, or I will send you on ahead." The horse would finally yield, after saying something in its weird demonic tongue. Then, their next step would be to meet Archaon's father. And Archaon expected they will not be received well. So they made haste towards the Forsaken Fortress, and Archaon entered it. And there he met his father in the same place he met the Changeling back then. And they would exchange words. "I see you, dread thing," Archaon told it. "Only because I wish it, mortal," Belacor told him. The Demon Prince's voice was in everything heard, felt. Archaon could even taste the bitter hatred coming off the thing. "You have wandered far off your course, chosen of the Chaos Gods. The Everchosen of Chaos," Archaon told it. "You have not earned that title yet, mortal," the Dark Master reminded him. "The Everchosen of Chaos is known by his treasures, and there are 2 yet to be found." "That is only a matter of time," Archaon assured the creature. "Is it not, demon? Are not my moments, my months, my years, the very lives I might have lived, but playthings to creatures like you? Like sinews of wool about your claws, to cut, to let loose, or to wrap about your fingers?" Belacor growled at Archaon with withering intensity, but said nothing. "I look to the north, the south, the east, and the west, and you are there, shadow, hidden on the horizon. I try to remember my past, and there you are, haunting my memories. I have dark hopes for the future, but you afflict even those with your own potential presence. Is that why you are here, mortal? To whine, carp, and plead?" "You know why I'm here, demon filth," Archaon told it. Let's not play childish games. I have traveled far and found he who would not be found. You are here for answers. We will leave guesswork to idle philosophers, Archaon said. I will know what you would have with me, creature, from your own faithless lips, or I shall cut the truth out of your infernal carcass. Answers? Speak, demon, while you still can, Archaon warned. You have the very world on its knees before you, and you came to find me. For answers? Archaon felt the bottomless depths of the creature's scorn. Its mockery burned to hear. Are you going deaf? Archaon shot back. My demands have not changed since the last time I asked. Yes, monster. Answers. To questions. I ask a question and you answer it. That's how this works. Don't make me ask you again. What I would have with you, Be'lakor ceded, and quote, I would have you realize your destiny, my son in shadow. Archaon bit at his bottom lip. The sound of his demonic father admitting as much was like ice water in his ears. And who does my destiny serve? Archaon asked. We all serve those greater than ourselves. Be'lakor, Archaon hissed. Demon Prince, Dark Master. Some say you are the crown bearer of the Chaos Gods, nothing more than a slave. Others that you serve only yourself and your insatiable ambition. A mere pastime, Be'lakor said. Some embroidery, some whittle. I craft the future in flesh and blood. Who does your destiny serve? It serves me, you miserable cur. You are a doll with which to be played and left abandoned on the floor. You are the piece of the game taken and placed to one side of the board. You are a living afterthought, Archaon of the North, like all my servants. Nothing more. And yet here I am, Archaon rumbled back. I'm not on the floor. I'm here, where no man nor demon thought I would be. I stand before the lowly Be'lakor, dung-stain of the gods, and the armor of the Everchosen, carried here on the steed of the apocalypse, bearing the treasures of chaos and the ever-burning mark of the ruinous powers in my flesh. You think you are the first to bear such dark honors? Be'lakor asked, the question like a scorpion's sting. You are nothing, born of nothing, this hollow fruit of an empty womb. All that you are I put in there. But think not that I afford you any affection for that. My half-breeds roam the world. Thousands more serve me, not in flesh but in deed. They carry my mark. They live for my favor. They know their place. They do not carp and question. They serve the darkness of this world through the darkness they find in themselves. They serve their father in shadow, the darkness that is Be'lakor, you worthless wretch, as you should. And yet I am not without worth, it seems, Archaon told the abomination. I am the dark hope of the ruinous gods, the same gods that laugh at you, my father in shadow, and scorn your wretched efforts. Be'lakor the bearer, slave to circumstance, doomed to carry crowns but not to wear them, doomed to choose but not be chosen, granted eternity but denied form. You call me a nothing, you call me worthless. You are a prince without a kingdom to inherit. Nothing could be more worthless than that. Archaon turned his head and angled the tip of Terminus at one of his father's shadows, sentinels. The silhouettes behind him had edged closer. Back off, darkling, Archaon warned, or you will see the light, and it won't be pretty. After a moment's otherworldly hesitation, the thing drifted back. You can bring your bastards into the world, Archaon continued, fixing his monstrous father with a hateful gaze. You can inspire the low and the faithless. You can keep company with shadows. What you cannot do is be what you were. The Great Changer cursed you, Be'lakor. You cannot be crowned while conducting dark coronations for others. As you will do for me, demon, with you or without you, it is my destiny. I am chosen of the dark gods, and I will be the ever-chosen of chaos. You will meddle no further in my future. I am not yours to be manipulated or mastered. I will destroy you, creature of darkness." The palace boomed with the demon's laughter. It was a horrible sound that bounced about the strange chamber of the palace and through the twists and turns of labyrinthine passageways. It was everywhere and felt like a chorus of monsters laughing at Archaon. "You destroy me? You are less than worthless if you believe that. Perhaps Archaon of the North, you are my biggest disappointment." "Surely nothing could disappoint you more than yourself, demon," Archaon said. "Destroy you? My blade will send you back to whatever deviant plane you came from. It is my deeds that will destroy you, monster. The Everchosen of Chaos is known by his treasures, but the Lord of the End Times, he is known by his aftermath, by the oblivion that follows in his wake, and the endlings he brings. An end to all things, to the mortal races and their fortified beliefs, to the gods, both of law and of ruin, who are sustained by such patronage. An end to you, demon." Bellacor's horrific features contorted, further around in an infernal snarl. "You have the soul-sucking gall to talk to me of ends, Archaon of the North." The monster ceded and gulped. "Let me show you what I know of ends." The dark silhouettes, former Everchosens and aspirant Everchosen who failed, just like Bellacor, would attack Archaon, and he would manage to stand his ground until Bellacor said enough, and he joined the fight. Archaon would still manage to hold his ground a little, though Bellacor used his curse as a gift and made sure to disappear whenever Archaon was close to nicking him, stabbing him, or just outright hitting him. As you can imagine, in the end, Bellacor got the upper hand, and Archaon mocked him and told the Dark Master that he needs him, and he wouldn't kill him. To which Bellacor cut him in two. The armor was intact, but the body of Archaon was not. He would die there, at the hand of his father. "Think you are the first? Blood of my infernal blood, flesh of my damned flesh. You think you are the first fool to challenge me? I was slaughtering turncoats and traitors at the dawn of time, you miserable cur. I am Bellacor, first of the demon princes, a monster given form before histories were ever written, and the degenerate races of this world came to know their capabilities. I was a warlord like no other, primitive, powerful, pure of dark purpose, before your rat-worn cities and delusional civilizations. Before your mongrel guard king and the fall of his hammer, the tribes of men look to the greatest of their mortal kind to lead them, to unite the barbarian and the savage, to conquer, to kill, to create. The degenerate legions of man were spoiling fruit in my claw. They erected great monuments to my majesty, primitive stone structures of insanity and slavish ambition. With numbers beyond counting, the base and bloodthirsty rally to my banners of flayed skin. They butchered their own in my honor, the weak of mind, of faith and flesh, and brought death and destruction to the lesser races. Those that hid in the great fortress of the world, those that took to the depths, and those who thought themselves safe in far lands beyond broad oceans. The world was mine, as it will be again, under my leadership, nay, my sponsorship. Champions rose from the raging deluge of barbaric butchery that was my horde. Swine like you, Archaon of the North, living weapons I honed to a razor's edge, minds to which I had introduced pride, belief, and ambition, men of traitorous heart in whose veins treachery ran free. Some say this was my own doing, my mistake alone, that I had underestimated how deep the rot ran in man's soul, that with my dark example I had inspired a generation of chieftains and champions, dread warriors of growing skill, supremacy, and influence, who came to be known to the gods. Those that know better lay blame at the feet of the changer of ways, the fortified god Zeech, all supreme in his understanding of the world, its people and princes, patron of the ascended, plague of the prideful, the horror of mortal hope and fear. It was from him that such an aspirant warlords and warriors learned of their power. From him they learned the arts of conspiracy and how to catch the eye of a god. Tzeentch the betrayer, Tzeentch the great wheel of the world that turns, Tzeentch that bane of all existence, but one of many. Tzeentch the doom of Be'lakor. He saw the dark pantheon's fate deluded, their trust spread between my dark champions and chieftains of their individual choosing. Soon I was a prince among many, the first among equals. I hunted down and slaughtered those that had betrayed me or intended to do so. Their appetite for power rivaled my own. So many hungered for a dominion of their own. So many followed such fools into oblivion. I was abandoned by my hordes, robbed of my gifts, drained of the power fed by our dread fate. I see the same in you, Archaon of the North, as I see in the Great Changer's hands in this. His poison drips from your ear, his lies guide your hand and the blade within. Archaon, blood of my infernal blood, flesh of my damned flesh, living legend of my dark craft. You will not be the Great Changer's puppet. You will not be the double-edged sword that wounds he who wields it. You will be Archaon, Everchosen of chaos, blood of Be'lakor's blood and flesh of Be'lakor's flesh. Or you will be destroyed. Destroyed. 1,000 times destroyed. Archaon got up. He managed to injure his father, and they would fight again. Be'lakor would cut his arm with his sword, making him drop his sword, for Archaon was now armless. Like Abaddon. As before, the cut happened to the armor, and he would meet his death once more. There is no life for you, my son in shadow. No existence to call your own. No flicker of hope, like the flame of a guttering candle before a storm. I brought you into wretched existence. Your flesh is mine to do with as I will. To desecrate with claw, steel, or flame if I choose. To extinguish or exalt. You can be Archaon of the North, a doom of my creation. Kill, raise, destroy, all in the name of shadow. Enjoy the power I have given you. Relish in the corporal delights of the flesh while it's still yours. Blood, greed, lust, women to carry new life, men to suffer at your command, men to die at your hand. Collect the dark treasures of our calling. Inspire the strong to fight at your side, for only they are worthy of the end times to come. Thin our ranks of the weak and undeserving. Let your wrath be their judge. Swell the horde in the bellies of harlots with our future. Sons on a dark path, champions in the making, loyal lieutenants to fight at my side. There are others. There will always be others. Sons whose hearts beat beneath my rising star. Ruinous champions of our purpose, if not our blood. They will see this dawn done, if you will not, shadow son of mine. On with your dark quest, north, Archaon, north. The southern wastes have given up their treasures. For the last two, the two will mark you as the Everchosen of the Chaos Gods and Lord of the end times to come. You must return to the top of the world. Hear me, son of shadow. Let my words be remembered. Let them guide your black heart. Let them stay with your sorry soul. To return to the top of the world, you must walk in the shadow of the gods themselves, along a path with no bearing that winds through a world beyond your own. It is a madman's path, and you would have to be insane to take it. But take it you must. The end times are coming, and we are their harbinger. Go up by going down, out by going in, north by going south, as far south as south will go. There you will find the gateway to our darkest dreams. Whatever is left of you, Archaon, shall pass through a north no mortal man has known. Beyond that is a north that tempered your ruinous flesh, and beyond that, the north will be no more. There you will find what you seek, and in doing so, you will realize both are destinies. You shall wear the crown of damnation, as I shall wear you. Your form shall become mine. Your soul will be but a dimming bauble in the howling darkness of your being, a memory of our time together. No man nor God shall stop me. The legions of hell shall answer to my call, and the world will be mine to destroy once again. This you will do for me, Archaon of the North, for you have no choice. Archaon would fight his father and be injured again. The Dark Master mocked him, but Archaon said he will never give up. So Bellicor kicked him out of the fortress and told him to go north. The horse came in to his master, and together they went to the Gatelands. Hopefully they would find his horde, not dead by this point, and would go to the north. Once they got close to the palace of the Demon Lord, Archaon saw that his horde were fighting the army of the Demon Lord of Slaanesh. Amgraron, you know, the guy. When he came to the earth, his own men wanted to attack him at first, but then they calmed down and recognized that Archaon was their master. Then he went to Ograx. And talking was difficult. You see, for Archaon to manage communication with his beast fiends, he needed Shirian. And Shirian wasn't there, so Archaon tried to talk to Ograx, but it was hard. And Archaon couldn't understand the vile tongue of the beast fiends, excuse me. But after some tries, he asked about Shirian and where he is, so he could translate. And the beast fiend pointed at the tower of the Demon Lord. A sign that the sorcerer was a prisoner. He didn't ask about Giselle and the swords. Then he continued pointing at the tower. Then the Everchosen realized they didn't attack intentionally. They were attacked. Possibly because those whole 3 days didn't pass. Considered responsible for the chaos, because, you know, Archaon stole the horse and kinda is responsible for all those beasts being unleashed. So, you know, he unleashed the menagerie upon their captures. Nevertheless, he mounted his steed and told it to go to the palace. The horse refused and turned himself into a gargoyle statue. So Archaon warned him. Once. Twice. The horse didn't do anything. And the third time, he hit the statue in the face with a warhammer. As you can imagine, that was very painful for the horse. And it shook it. It also made it furious. And he started to transform into a hulking and monstrous being, still resembling a horse. And it would butt heads with Archaon. Archaon would tell him to take only him. And you know what? The horse really reconsidered his options and he decided to take Archaon to the tower. Archaon's host had to also fight against the specimens of the menagerie. Because they were escaped, and thanks to Archaon, they were now ravaging left and right. They didn't care why they were fighting next to them, or what was the point. They just scared to get their next fix, their next prey. So, of course, things were difficult for the forces on the ground. Archaon would reach the top of the tower, and from there, he could look down upon the court of the Demon Lord, a horrific hermaphrodite snake-like creature that was punishing its ogre huntsman, you know, the one that was in charge of collecting the beast, first by lashing him, then by killing his conjoined twin, which made the ogre scream very loudly and in grievous pain, possibly also in heartbreaking pain, but we can't understand the ogre. On the walls, dangling upon hooks, were the swords, Giselle, and Shireen. While looking at Giselle, he thought of everything he lost. Oberon, Dagobert, his fate. He thought of Giselle, and while the swords and the sorcerer deserved their fate, she didn't. Archaon wondered if what he feels is love for the girl he found bland and tedious at first. There's a clear conflict inside of him, and she was a spark of humanity, the last one in him. He wondered if he didn't keep her around with the hope that she might one day kill him and save the world. This is an aspect that many don't speak of when talking about Archaon. But let's move away from that. Archaon would go down while the demons were preoccupied, and he would try to save Giselle. But trying to save her was kind of an impossible task, because you see, he managed to unhook her, and he did try to take her, but the Demon Lord and his demonettes saw him. And well, what came next was kind of horrible. Archaon had to fight the she-demons. As you can expect, he would defeat them. But the Demon Lord, he wasn't playing around, and using his spit and some fighting, he managed to dissolve Terminus, the sword that Archaon got so long ago, and the sword that sealed his fate as a Templar and as the Everchosen of Chaos. Archaon screamed no. As you can imagine, the sword was important to him, and to be honest, the sword killed more evil creatures at his side than it ever would have if it just remained to the Kastner family and the Empire. Nevertheless, he would use those weapons of the killed demonettes against them, as it would so happen. Archaon told the ogre that if he wants revenge, he knows what to do. By this point, his gore fiends were beating on the throne room's door, but the door wouldn't budge. The Demon Lord wasn't going to be playing around anymore, so he went after Archaon. The door would have rather killed the people banging on it than ever opened to them. It was a strong door. The Everchosen had only one weapon though. Remember the whole demonette thing? I lied about it. He didn't get any weapon from the demonettes. He had one weapon instead. So he threw Giselle at the Demon Lord. Yes, I kid you not. He just yeeted her at the Demon Prince. And it worked. The girl burning away at the demon. The demon was in pain. It was moved. It was burning. Some more fighting ensues. Archaon has to use one of the weapons of the she-demons. This is the part. The ogre manages to open the door and the gore fiends do not stay their hand. Oh yeah, the sorcerer and the swords would be rescued. In the end, Archaon wins. The Demon Lord wanted to torture Giselle, but it fell to Archaon's provocation and taunts. After the gore fiends got their way with the snake, the Everchosen came to the demon and told him for Terminus, an end for an end. With the battle done, a shaman would look over the wounds of Giselle and Shirian. Archaon had a wagon made for her with furs and everything. She stared blankly into nothingness, and she held herself as a child. Archaon had failed her once more, and he regretted it. Finally, Giselle said something. She didn't speak until that point. She asked Archaon, "Why won't you just die?" And he wondered the same thing. Next on the list was Ograx, and he had to be asked why did he attack. And the explanation was that the Demon Lord took what was most precious to Archaon, and he, Ograx, would get it back. Archaon tells him if he really cared about his master, he would keep close those things precious to him, and he wouldn't disobey his orders. Ograx is kind of furious and calls Giselle a harlot, which infuriates Archaon. Now it seems that Ograx is ready to fight Archaon. The ogre huntsman that served the Demon Lord points his huge arrow at Ograx. Of course, the swords then point their swords towards him. Because of course. And the beastmen that Ograx led with ferocity Well, they can't wait for the moment he dies, and one of them gets to replace him. Archaon would forgive the Beast Fiend, but told him to never imagine that he would lead his army alone ever again. The Ogre would then be sworn into servitude to the Everchosen, and he would be tasked to find the beast that Archaon freed, which left the Ogre a little bit confused. Then we get this description that I really liked. He was a skilled hunter and gifted in the primitive arts of charmongery. He was not much of a thinker. Archaon forgave him this falling. The warlord didn't need thinkers. Warriors who spend their time in thought rather than in slaughter's service were not to be trusted. Archaon had fallen foul of such dangers before, which really speaks to Archaon learning his lesson from the previous time and his previous experiences. Nevertheless, the Ogre would get it, and he would go to find the strongest beast for his warlord. Then Archaon and Shirian would discuss about how they will reach the north, their next destination. The sorcerer did not like the plan, to be honest, but in the end, he would have to agree to do it, because that's what Archaon said. And the plan wasn't a nice one. They had to go through the gate lands. Through the gate. Archaon's horde would march south to the Gatelands, where he would defeat champions of each Chaos God. But he stumbled upon a demon prince of Chaos Undivided that shared Archaon's humor and civility. He had a host of monastic demons fighting for him. At some point, the two would meet, and the demon prince proposed a duel to the death. Should he win, Archaon's horde would leave his temple. Should Archaon win, I don't know, he would take everything and kill and destroy. But Archaon rebutted and asked for first blood instead. Should the demon prince win, Archaon would just leave and with his horde. But should Archaon win, then the prince and his followers would join him. Which is a very fair trade, especially when you see how they react to each other and how honorable everything seems. They fight for a while until they are left without weapons. At some point, they start fighting in hand-to-hand combat. And here's where I forgot to mention something. In all these adventures, Archaon had, since being kicked from Be'lakor's fortress, well, he had them all with a broken right arm, because the demon prince managed to break it. So, this demon prince that is currently fighting Archaon, who's not Be'lakor, that broke his arm, thought it was not a fair fight and was not honorable. So he dislocated his own right arm so they can fight with honor as equals. Anyway, in hand-to-hand combat, they are quite equally matched. At some point, Archaon kicks the demon prince, but the demon prince managed to nick him a little with the spikes on his gauntlets, drawing a little blood. Nobody but the two of them would know of this. But Archaon wanted to give up, and when he wanted to declare that he lost, Giselle came from behind the demon prince, took the bone knife of a sword, and cut the throat of the prince. And so the two sides went to war. While looking at the sky, Archaon was sure Shirian's twisted patron was laughing at these events. Archaon and his men would continue to defeat demon princes, and finally they would reach the gate. When Archaon stared into the abyss, 1,000 abysses stared right back at him. He gave an impressive speech to his men and charged with them through the gate, and they became nothing. Riding hard through eternity, the doom of all the world came forth, bloodthirsty and armed to the teeth, his monstrous host ready for war. At the frozen top of the world, he found men of fate like himself, for whom life was a bloody blur, an unthinking, murderous hell. Foe, barbarian, invader, he came at the kingdoms of men, from north, south, east, and west, danger, testing resolve, gathering strength, with the treasures of chaos found, their infernal promise assumed. He was to be chosen and crowned, and all hell to be broken loose. 'Twas the dark demon of Be'lakor's damnable calling to perform, a dread obligation abhorred, a despised duty, nevermore. The war host wandered the Chaos Realm for what seemed like an eternity, and they didn't get close to the gate. They were being stalked by creatures of the realm of chaos. After some exchange with Shirian, Archaon would offer a part of his soul to any creature who would guide him and his men out of this realm. A demon takes up the offer and fights other demons for it. A Skull Taker of Khorne, his left fist. The Skull Taker possesses his body and soul, and Archaon exchanges insults to him. Well, we learned that the demon's name is Zgul. The Skull Taker can take him to the next treasure of chaos, the Slayer of Kings, a sword who has Zugul's brother and the right fist of Khorne bound in it, Uzul. In exchange for showing him the way, all Archaon has to do is just release the demon from the sword. And Archaon agrees. During this whole process of talking, Archaon's body was mutating into the Galvorak things. So more demon than man. They would come out of the north gates, blessed. Beast fiends turn into man fiends, just as strong, but unfortunately with the intellect and cunning of humans. Shirian got younger. Zgul will be there to, see them out of the Chaos Realm. Also, important note, Archaon also got his own Chaos Blessing. That was that anything close to him would die. Nature. We're talking about nature. Storms would gather above his head. Giselle would also be blessed. She ran like a madman, trying to claw at Ogras's chest. Her gift was not a nice one. The man-fiend wanted to slap her, but he stopped when Archaon came for her, and saw the mutation that she received. The Chaos Gods can be truly cruel, for they have taken her mouth. Where once lips stood, now only flesh remained. Archaon went and tried to comfort her, but he thought about making an opening where the mouth was. Silly, I know. Then he thought about killing her. Hograx encouraged him to do so, but he didn't. He still had love in his heart, or what stood as love. So he made sure she could breathe by using his mouth to breathe in her nose, comforting her. Because, she panicked once she woke up and found she had no more mouth and thought she couldn't breathe. And that's it for now. Next, Archaon would lead his host to the Eternal Battle, a place that knew only war in the Northern Waste, where warriors of chaos fought other warriors of chaos for the triumphs and understanding and tranquility of the Dark Gods. Of course, once Archaon rode there, he saw many Chaos Warriors scream out his name. Others didn't, and those were met with a swift end. But as Archaon's army grew, another army did the same. But not out of conviction for its warlord, but out of plague, out of disease, out of mutations. The army of the Chaos Champion, Gangris, blessed by Nergo and favorite of Chaos, would grow. Archaon would fight him, and he saw that Gangris had the same ruinous star that he did, the Star of Be'lakor. Proof that Be'lakor had many others prepared to take their flesh should they reach the proper position. After a long battle, Archaon would win, and all Chaos Warriors screamed out his name, pledging fealty to the Chaos Champion, to the Everchosen. Who decides to appear out of nowhere? Gorst, the Flagellant. Archaon would make him an example of sorts. "I was one of you," Archaon called across the frozen silence. His voice carried on the shearing wind. "A puppet in a sick show like this, dancing for my dark masters. I dance no more, and neither should you. The gifts of the gods are no such thing. Let us not seek reward. Let us not ask for power. Let us not wait on that which is given. Let us take what is ours. Darkness is ours. Ruin is ours. The world turns beneath our feet for the taking. Real powers resides not with gods or any following, but with those who take it from them. I am Archaon, doomed to my enemies, doomed to all the world, doomed to the gods invested in that world. Come with me. Why earn the treasures of chaos when you can steal them? Why kill for the ruinous patrons when you can kill for yourself? Why sell your soul so cheaply when you can make the worlds of gods and men pay for your miseries? I might be the chosen of the dark gods, but I did not choose them. I will be Everchosen of chaos, where the dreaded powers and their demons wish it for me or not. The legions of hell will be ours to command, and we shall use them to demonstrate true power. The power to choose, to be or not to be. To drag the sick perversity of this demon-haunted existence kicking and screaming into a time of ending. To end the world, the gods that torment it, and ourselves. That is real power, and I ask you to seize it with me, with he who is one of you. Lost, damned even, but a slave to darkness no more. With Archaon. The infernal fires of the collapsed gate blazed like flames upon which gunpowder had been dashed. The bale light of the beyond burned ferociously at Archaon's god-thwarting words. Archaon couldn't tell whether the brilliance raged in warning or celebration of his wondrous achievements. Archaon, a voice boomed across the killing field. A skull axe thrust up at the sky, above the heads of countless warriors. It was Ograx the Great, the half-breed prince who was beast no more. The former bestial champion of the blood god, whose army of man-feet has smashed through the havoc of the battle eternal, collecting before its example an ever-growing vanguard of chaos warriors. He knew precious few words in his master's tongue, but he knew the glory of his name. With his chest heaving, Ograx roared the warlord's name to the storm-crashing heavens. "Let us be the storm that rolls south," Archaon bellowed back at them, leveling his battle axe towards a world awaiting its end. Was all the monstrous horde needed to hear. In search for the sword, Slayer of Kings, many of Archaon's lieutenants would fail him, one even boasting how he gave up his mission and killed another champion of Khorne in the name of Archaon. Remember that. But the ogre, yes, the ogre beastmaster, who now sported antler horns after the walk through the Chaos Realm, found something. So Archaon took him, his swords, Ograx, and the lieutenant with his company, that I've mentioned earlier, to find what the ogre did. They would reach the mountain the ogre found, and Ograx will kill the lieutenant and all his men, because Archaon was culling the weak out of his realm. He was also making sure that no one from the lieutenant's company would survive, since their loyalties were not directly to Archaon, but their company leader and to his lieutenant. And he could not have that. This wasn't just a thing he did now, he regularly got rid of his subordinates that started to become more independent and more a threat to his power. Not directly, never directly. Rumors spread across the camp and fear grew, but they never saw what happened to those that Archaon disliked. Whatever was left, which means the swords, the ogre, Ograx, and Archaon, would climb the mountain and find rusted swords. Not on bodies, but just laying around or stuck in stone. Archaon wondered how they got there in the first place, but none of the answers he found were satisfying. They were not in the remains of a battle. There was no bodies. They were not just a monument. There was no sign there to any chaos god or anything, in fact. So they continued walking until they reached what they were looking for. They found the Slayer of Kings. And they also found that this wasn't just a regular mountain. No. You see, in the Chaos Realms there are these half-ogre, half-dragon hybrids, known as dragon ogres. I know, very smart.
but they are big, burly, and very strong. Now, above them in hierarchy of power are the first of their race, the biggest and the strongest and the baddest, Shaggoths. And they were on one of the oldest Shaggoths known to anybody. It was as big as a mountain. Luckily, it was sleeping for millennia, so they just had to make sure they wouldn't wake it up. The sword was under one of the Shaggoths' hands, who incidentally was covering the dragon ogre's eyes. That makes it more difficult. Archaon tried to lift it, but Ograx came and managed to do it by himself, so Archaon went for the sword. And see, Ograx was a strong champion of Khorne, very muscular, so much so that his breastplate was there more for decoration than actual protection. But still, he had on it the symbol of Khorne, like any good berserker. During the efforts of lifting the dragon ogre's hand, the plate would fall and expose the chest of the man-fiend. And on his chest was a symbol. And Archaon knew very well that symbol. The ruinous star of Be'lakor. He didn't know if the fiend was marked since birth, if he got the mark during their travel to the realm of chaos, or if he just got it recently. And in the end, Archaon knew he would have to fight him again. It was what it was. But that could wait for now. Archaon grabbed the sword and made the mistake of telling it he won't release the demon inside just yet. Since the sword could not turn against its wielder, because the second Everchosen that put the demon inside the blade was smart enough to make sure that's a protection, the sword decided they are going to be the dragon ogre's problem now, and it started screeching. Loudly enough that it almost woke up the dragon ogre. Archaon's group could not hope to defeat the beast if it woke up, it was as big as a mountain. So what does Archaon do to stop the sword from screeching and ringing? He finds a scabbard for it, in the throat of Ograx. Archaon would never know when did Ograx turn to Be'lakor, but he just stuck it in there, down his throat. Well, this would kill the man-fiend. It would stop the sword from screeching, mostly because it delighted in the blood of Ograx, such a great champion of Khorne. And now they could leave the dragon ogre alone. Time passes, and nonetheless, people get affected by it. And Giselle grew to be old and invalid, sitting in a bed, unable to move her hand. Archaon would sit in her room and try to end her suffering, but he couldn't, the same way she couldn't during those nights. Quite tragic. He wasn't keeping her now out of love, no, that was long gone at this point. His heart had turned to obsidian. He no longer needed sleep or any natural, things. He kept her as a prisoner to remind him of every atrocity he committed. Now, the poor thing couldn't even kill herself. But that's depressing, so let's go back to more fun stuff. Archaon became a pirate lord again to find the last treasure of chaos, the crown of domination. He wouldn't find it, of course, but he would be called to Bretonnia by one who could help him find it. One that wore the symbol of Tzeentch and Be'lakor. Vilitich awaited for Archaon, and didn't need to tell him his plan because Archaon was so used to betrayal he could smell it a mile away. But he would help the twisted twin demon because Vilitich could give him the location of someone that knows where the crown of domination is. But first he would have to siege a very well defended castle, whose lord called upon help because the twisted twin already tried to attack it once. By the way, Gorst was still there. The siege was going good. Archaon and his team were winning, until the curse-link twisted twin Vilitich appeared and started to turn everybody into chaos spawns. Yeah. Archaon would make his way to him and ask him for the truth, or else he would kill the curseling. The demon of Tzeentch told him to go to the Dread Peak, where the World Edge Mountains met the Northern Waste. And who did the cursing said will be waiting for Archaon once he got there? Be'lakor, because it was his burden, so only he knew where to find the Crown of Domination. The Twisted Twin disappeared, and Archaon recalled his forces, because the armada of the Grand Theologianist was coming for them. Either already announced by the lord of the castle they were attacking, or by Vilditch himself. Archaon would take his sorcerers to the Dread Peak, and with a dwarven sword made out of silver from a meteorite, they would summon Be'lakor. Archaon stepped forward. There were several Be'lakors now, all fighting to be free of the summonings, all but irresistible force. Fearful of the iron prison that awaited the demon in the form of the ancient dwarf sword, 50 Be'lakors, 100. Demon! Archaon called through the boom of the oily black inferno. As the fiery phantasm raged, one nightmare shape flickered to stillness. It looked at Archaon, seeming to see him for the first time. Dark Prince, my father in shadow, hear me. I can hear you, the demon said, his slick composure at odds with the thousands of the other frenzied Be'lakors that fought to be free of the demon trap. The Dark Master was both storm and infernal serenity, living the existential agonies of self-realization. I can see you. I feel your dark presence in this miserable world. I smell your fear and taste your bitter despair. Archaon who would be Everchosen, Archaon who will herald nothing more than his own disastrous doom. Enough of that. I think, Archaon told the Demon Prince, if this flesh is destined to fail, then you will fail with it. You tell me what I need to hear, like all fathers their sons. Spare me, wretched shadow. There is but one thing I want, and will ever want from you. You are the herald, you are the bearer, you and only you know where the unholy crown of domination can be found. Ruinous right of the chosen, distinction of the infernal sovereignty in this world, and those never to follow. Tell me, demon, where can the final treasure of chaos be found? Archaon. Yes. Archaon, Archaon, Archaon. How can a man who has traveled so far, who has lived the lives you have, who has tasted eternity, not understand the nature of his fate? Explain it to me, Archaon ordered, whilst he still can. Your existence is a history of nerves, a madness repeated, falling from the lips of a lunatic, an echo ebbing away to cavernous silence. You are the ghost that has forgotten itself, the shadow past. Your flesh only lives to know the true darkness that awaits it, once your soul plagues it no more. Could the abomination be more cryptic? Archaon asked. Like the wayward son you have pulled away, Be'lakor told him. You have defied your father's wishes, his hopes for your future. You have forged what you have told yourself to be your own path, yet here you are begging for your father in shadow once more. Begging? Archaon snarled. You mistake asking for telling, demon. Entreaty for interrogation, invitation for imprisonment. Words do not seem to work on the demon. Show the wretched thing. At Archaon's orders, Shirian and the Dark Sorcerers gathered about the circle of stones, tightened their hold on Be'lakor. The demon roared, joining the thousands of Be'lakors already raging against their spiritual bonds. The demon's shadow form became stretched and contorted. The blade before it rattled in the ground, drawing the demon in, like the black iron doors of an eternal prison, thrown open wide. Be'lakor's torments sent quakes through both the mountain and sky, the agonies of instability, infernal fears of imprisonment. Bolts of indescribable energy snapped between the meteoric iron of the ancient blade and the demon prince Archaon wished to consign to it. The blade glowed to unruly darkness, while the great black fire began to die within Be'lakor's hold on the beyond, on the material world, on himself. Had enough, Demon Prince? Archaon put to his hated father in shadow. I am Archaon. My fate is my own, my decision my own, my existence my own, and I have chosen the doom of all for that existence. I shall trap you in an ancient iron, to spend forever in an unworthy blade, yielded by those you consign to everlasting darkness in this dreadful place. I shall then take this blade, this prison, out to the ocean, and drop you into the deepest waters I can find, lost for eternity in the sands of a dark, watery desert, with only carcass-picking crabs for company. You will never find the last treasure of chaos, Archaon said, as the Dark Master fluxed in rage, the pull of the ancient iron irresistible. I'll take my chances. At least I will spend my eternity free to pursue such a destiny. You will not, my father in shadow. Besides, the Dark Gods are fickle. Perhaps the next Everchosen of Chaos will be crowned without lowly Be'lakor. After thousands of years, perhaps the ruinous powers desire a change. At least one of them does. Oh, how he would like to see your failure complete. A world's end without Be'lakor to usher it in. Archaon! Tell me, hissed Archaon at the dissipating demon. Tell me now. The crown awaits, yes, in the first shrine of chaos. Where, demon? Archaon roared. Where the first human soul was bartered to the dark gods. Your soul, Demon Prince. Where? You are unworthy. Where? Archaon bellowed back at the raging demon. You will never wear the crown, Archaon completed for the demon. Then neither will you. Do it, Archaon commanded. But Master, Shirian said, show this abomination the eternity of iron, Archaon roared. Be'lakor roared. The sky split asunder. Thunder rolled backwards through the heavens. The dwarf blade quivered to a sonorous shriek, glowing with Be'lakor's darkness. The flames bloomed and twisted. Dark energy sank a dread chorus, streaming between the ruinous doors and through the monstrous fire. Thousands of screaming Be'lakors became hundreds. Hundreds became one. A mighty phantasm in the flame, clawing, slashing his tail, flapping his wings, and tossing the grotesque form of his horned head from side to side. His shrieks, oaths, and demon curses melting the sky. Yes, Archaon roared. Yes, know, monster, what it is to be bound by destiny and a prison to your fate. Suddenly, with Archaon's monstrous jubilation still echoing about the Dread Peak, the Demon Prince was gone. The oily emptiness of the Inferno died. The black, age-eaten blade quivered and glowed with Be'lakor's darkness. Dread energies arched from stone to steaming sword. No one spoke. Thunder faded. The skies flashed with silent lightning, and black rain fell on the mountain. Be'lakor would break free by breaking the sword. It just happens. Shirian would die because two pieces stabbed his eyes. One shard penetrated Archaon's armor and came out the other side. Remember how this armor used to be OP when he found it? It seems like everything can go through it now. Be'lakor would repeat where to find the Crown of Domination. And then Archaon realized it was right there. With Be'lakor breaking free, the mountains shook and Archaon fell to the shrine, having to deal with the trials of the ruinous powers, living through diseases, the temptation of multiple Giselles, a crystal labyrinth, and a skull taker to defeat. But Archaon would live and conquer each trial, and at the end, receiving the Crown of Domination, a black band with spikes pointing towards the head of the wearer. He found himself in the shrine, and with the blessing of the Chaos Gods, a door opened, and he walked out. On the door, the prophecy of the end times was written. Archaon would come out in front of his men, and Be'lakor would appear to crown him, Everchosen of Chaos. When he put the crown on Archaon's head, it hurt Archaon. It was eye-opening. It gave him visions. It gave him a sight beyond sight, something not even the Wordstone was able to give him. Now, he saw more than he ever did with the Eye of Shireen. Of course, Archaon would banish the Dark Master, and surprisingly, Be'lakor would leave without a word. As fate would have it, a comet appeared in the sky, a dark omen, but this one had two tails, just like the one that appeared when Sigmar was born. Ironic. The swords would come to their master, and Giselle was with them too. Mockingly, he asked the sister if she still believes he can be saved. The girl turned to him, like she wanted to speak something, which remember was impossible because she didn't have any mouth. And she said, "Who do you think ruined you?" And that's when Archaon could saw Giselle. He saw her as a demonette of Slaanesh. Everything was a lie. And then Archaon found himself stabbed with a dagger made from the claw of Be'lakor. That let the first among demon princes infest the mind and soul of Archaon and possess him for a while, making him cut his own swords in the process. But before that, and before, Be'lakor took hold of Archaon, he made sure to cut Giselle out of his own volition. Yeah, he just really deserved that one. Okay, I get it. Before stabbing her and finding out, he thought there was something strange about Giselle. Just now. She was kept young for years, looking the same as the first day they ever met. She lived for decades having her mouth shut open. Before cutting her down, he undressed her and saw that she had the ruinous star of Be'lakor etched on her flesh. As you can imagine, this was a terrible betrayal, and this was when Be'lakor tried to take control. There was now an internal battle between Be'lakor and Archaon, and at some point Archaon managed to throw out the first among demon princes and move the battle into real space. The problem was that even after freeing the demon inside the sword and stabbing Be'lakor with it, Archaon was still losing. Archaon just kept losing. It's like the first few times. Be'lakor would put the demon back in the sword. Nothing really changed since their first fight, at the Forsaken Fortress. When the Dark Master was prepared to kill the Everchosen, Archaon used the dagger that betrayed him, the one Giselle used, and stabbed Be'lakor in the middle of his chest, banishing him. He knew this wouldn't be the end. He would come back, but Archaon would be ready to do the same. And so, the end it came to pass. Archaon, the Everchosen, at the head of an army vast, his storm of chaos yet to come. Archaon would gather his army and look upon the world in front of him. This world and all those beyond it will end. He called through the valleys and vaulting mountains. Archaon dug his armored heels into the side of the demon steed, prompting Droghar on into the Empire, the ruinous hordes of darkness at the Everchosen's back. The end begins now.